Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Marc Rudram. I'm the UK National Sales Manager for NEC. In this webinar we're going to be looking at the MyCalls Manager, which is an application that can reside on the SV9100 and the SL2100. MyCalls Manager is all about providing real-time information, and it emphasised the word real-time. Some of our competitors can provide you information that is historical, but in the event of having a large amount of abandoned calls, what use is that information in 24 hours time? MyCalls Manager is real time that allows you to see exactly what's happening and when it's happening to take further action to avoid the increase of abandoned calls, as an example. So it gives you the ability to measure and monitor how your telephone system's reacting to your incoming callers. We can provide information and visibility of what's happening with your extensions when they're on internal calls, external calls, etc. We can see calls in a queue that are waiting to be answered that can have thresholds set behind them. So these tiles that you actually see within this template will flash. We can have multiple templates. So if you want to measure other departments on a different template, you can absolutely do that, and the templates can flip from one to the other after 20, 30, 40 seconds, etc. If the managing director wanted to see everything that's happening within the business, you'd need a MyCalls Manager license, and me as a manager within a sales team, I only want to measure what's happening within my department. I would have an additional user license, and I would tile it up totally different probably to the managing director, because yet again I want to see that information that is relevant to my responsibility. So you can have multiple templates, you can have all the reports, which I think there's about 150 in the tin. They can be scheduled to go to your email or to a printer at whatever frequency that you want. Some of the reports you're able to custom, so you yet again is having 2 or 3 reports to evaluate an extension user as an argument. Custom reports allows you to draw in several elements of different reports, so you're just printing one report. Now, having probably 150 reports available to you, we don't want you to be trawling through those going to find the report all the time. So we can actually flag some of the reports as favorites. We put them in a separate tab, so they make it super easy for you to view as and when you want. You may want to view certain reports throughout the day to see how things are actually running. And by no stretch of the imagination, probably my favorite feature of this application is what we call management by exception. I don't know of anybody that is paid 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day to look at a piece of software and wait for something to go wrong. We're all busy people, we all multitask and do different things. So management by exception allows me to put a set of rules within the application. If those rules are broken, it can generate an alarm. Alarm that could be a little pop-up in the bottom right hand side of the screen, which you're going to see shortly when we get to the live demonstration, or it can actually generate an email informing me that we're not answering the calls within a certain amount of time, or a telesales person has not met her or his 1 hour 10 call target. They've only done 5. So at least I know within the first working hour that that individual's only made 5 calls, so I can go and investigate. Of course, there could be genuine reasons. However, at least that individual will know that I'm actually monitoring her or his performance, and hopefully will continue throughout the next 7 working hours of the day. They consistently do their 10 calls. Okay, if we're not answering the calls within an amount of time, if calls are over 15 minutes to an international number, we can highlight that. We can make you aware that event is happening even by just sending you an email. So management by exception is the ability to put some rules in there, and those rules are broken, we generate some sort of alarm, email notifications, and even an SMS. We can actually send you a message to, or it could be as simple as a pop-up in the bottom right hand side of the screen. Of course, nowadays we have to be GDPR compliant, so if a customer phones in and says I have the right to be forgotten, we need to get rid of all the data and delete that data. There's a simple process how that occurs, and I'll show you that in the live demonstration. And MyCalls Manager is needed to listen and review any MyCalls recording, which is our recording solution, which is encrypted and sustainable in court, ideal for training and legal purposes, of course. And the only reason I've mentioned it here, you would need to have MyCalls Manager to listen to those recordings, or MyCalls Call Center. So yeah, again, the recording of the recorder is in another version, but what we're trying to get across here, you're just using the MyCalls Manager as a sole source, whether it's live information, reporting, or listen to call recording. With that said, let's go over and have a look at the MyCalls Manager in real time. So here we are in the MyCalls Manager. Let me explain some of the tiles and other things that you're actually viewing right now. Before we make a start, I've actually imported an application called MyCalls Desktop into the MyCalls Manager just to aid me while demonstrate this to you. So this is a template, and you can have multiple tiles on a template. You can see there we've got 8 tiles down here. We've got some call history, which we'll get to shortly, and you can actually see we're actually monitoring all trunks or DDIs. Now, if you've got a business that has different DDIs for different departments, not a problem at all. We can add those tiles into the software that allows you to monitor them. You may even choose to put them on a different template. You can have multiple templates and view it in that way if you wanted to. This little this little green arrow here would flip from one template to another after 20-30 seconds. Now, as I may have explained already, you're viewing the MyCalls Manager, and let's say the managing director wants to see everything in the business. However, you may want to put something on a screen within the business. You may wish to give a sales manager, as myself, visibility of what's happening in his department. What you would do in those instances is purchase an additional user license. Okay, of course I can actually put what you're viewing now onto a screen, but when I start to run reports and do some investigation on individuals and things like that, it may seem a little bit intimidating watching that on a big plasma somewhere in the business. So an additional user license, we can tile it up accordingly, and if anybody starts to investigate on the MyCalls Manager, it's not being viewed by the whole of the business. So in the left hand side we have a bit of a bar chart that allows us to see our outgoing and abandoned and incoming calls, and the green is obviously the incoming. You can see here, if I hover over, we've had 4 calls in at 7 o'clock this morning, and we've had a total of 6 abandoned. Now that's quite useful. Throughout the day we may inadvertently find out we're getting a lot of abandoned calls, maybe at lunchtime, maybe first thing in the morning when people are talking about what happened last night as opposed to answering the telephone. So that will grow as we go throughout the day. In the next tile to the right, we're monitoring calls, all trunks that are in the queue waiting to be answered, and yet again we'll bring some calls in shortly and you'll see that. And then majority of people's eyes are focused in this area here, our incoming, our outgoing, and our abandoned call and the unreturned call. Very self-explanatory. We can monitor how many incoming calls we've had, how many outbound calls we've had, probably more importantly the abandoned calls, and we can see that we have 6 there and unreturned calls too, and I'll explain that very, very shortly. We can see our lines, so yet again we have the ability to see how many lines are being used, and equally our staff. Okay, when they're on the phone, when they're off the phone, when they're off hook, on an incoming call, an outbound call, we will get visibility, and there's various ways we can actually view that. Okay, so what I'm actually going to start with the demonstration. I'm going to bring a call in, and what's going to happen, you're going to see that the call in the queue will come red where it says CIQ. We can actually make that flash after a period, a threshold is met, so catch somebody's attention, and hopefully they will take action and start answering some phones. And what I'm going to do is abandon the call. So what will happen, it will go from 6 to 7. Okay, so let me bring a call in and abandon it quickly. So we can see now we've got the call in the queue. It's coming on that line and it's ringing on the reception. I'm going to put the phone down because they haven't answered quickly enough. And you can see now that the abandon rate has gone to 7 and the on-return call has gone to 3. So 7 people have actually phoned into this business and we've not answered them. And let's hypothetically say that each call over the phone is an average of £1,000. That's £7,000 worth of potential business I may have lost. But it's not that bad because what we have next to it is our unreturned call list. So if anybody phones in from the people that originally abandoned and we answered, this figure here will start to reduce. Okay, so at this moment in time, instead of losing £7,000 worth of business, I've potentially only lost 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do this time is bring the call in and I'm going to answer it. And what you'll notice is that the abandon rate will stay at 7 and the unreturned calls will reduce from 3. So here we go. So if we bring the call in, and I'm going to bring it in on the auto attendant this time.
Thank you for calling NEC. Press 1 for sales, 2 for service.
Okay, so the call's in the queue. I'm going to answer it by using this method here. And you can see that I've answered the call. It's David, as you can see here. We can see that call coming on line 1. Forget about the loopback. That's how we've arranged it in the auto attendant. And what I'm going to do now, we've finished the call. I'm going to put the phone down. And the data is going to change. Okay, so the incoming calls has increased, the abandon rate has stayed at 7, but the unreturned call tile has gone from 3 to 0. So that's telling us that when I phoned in 3 times previously and nobody answered, but this time somebody did, so it's gone down to 0. So yet again, you can measure and monitor whether we are being proactive and phoning people back, or are they phoning back and placing their orders or making an inquiry, etc, etc. So let's find out a little bit more about these abandoned calls, because this is quite interesting. There's various ways of doing this by a report, and I'll show you the full report package shortly. But if I just right click here, you see I've got the ability to pull off some reports. Let's just go for a group summary at this stage. So it's going off and it's going to provide me with a group summary report that will provide me with a whole host of useful information to try and understand the reasons why we haven't answered the call. So as you can see, it's actually writing the report. And first and foremost, what you'll notice is that I don't have any of these 7 telephone numbers, but bear with me, I will come to that. But you can actually see here that one call actually abandoned between 0 and 5 seconds, and the remainder of the calls have abandoned between 6 and 30. Now, why is that? Obviously, it could be a whole host of reasons. We haven't got people behind the desk answering the telephone, or we have and we've got a big influx of calls that are coming in and we just can't answer them. So we should be putting our system into another level of day and night service, which we have 8, and we can make every phone in the building if we wanted to. We may want to introduce a message to engage the customer, make him aware that we know you're waiting to be answered. We really appreciate your patience. Please hold and your call will be dealt with as soon as possible. So we can add messages, and don't forget that if you do get a message, you do not go to the bottom of the queue, you remain in the same position. Okay, so that's given me some useful details how I potentially can hold on to these people that are abandoning a little bit longer maybe. Now, getting off to the core data of these 7 calls, you can see I have the number 7 under the abandon there, and that's like a hyperlink, so I don't have to go off into the reporting package. I can just click on that and it'll go off to the reports package and provide me all that relevant information, so I can see the time and the date and the obviously the most important thing is the ring time. So you can see here 9, 19 seconds, 6, 5, 9, etc, etc. How easy was that? And we've got hundreds of reports. So what I'm trying to get at, the reports are accessible within the tile. So it makes life a lot easier for the user. So close those down. We're on the subject of reports. Now remember what I said at the beginning, reports can be scheduled to go to an inbox or to a printer at any given time and to whoever. And if I just open up some reports, so you can actually see the amount of reports that we've got. Let's just open up some folders and just open up a few, and let's go here. I think you're starting to get an understanding that all the reports that we have. Okay, now what we didn't want to happen is for you to trawl through these reports looking for the ideal report that you need on a regular basis. And you can see some of the reports here have got stars against them, so we've actually made them favorites. And yet again, favorites can be scheduled to go to your inbox or to your printer whenever you want them. So if I just close down this and just show you where the favorites are, you can see here I can click down and let's say I want to go to the director's report. Okay, the director's report is somewhat different to the rest because it's got some graphical information, so you can actually see that I've got the core data between this time and this date and this time. And this report can go every day, every night, every evening, once a week, once a month. Yet again, that's down to you to determine. Okay, so you have all the favorites reports really accessible to you. Okay, now let's have a look at extension status. Let me open up this window a little bit more, and on what I'm going to use, I'm going to use Marc's ST500. I'm Marc, of course, and my ST500 is an app that I have on my iPhone. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go off hook. Okay, so I'm just going to go off hook, and you can see that I am now off hook. Now keep your eye on the bottom right hand side of the screen, because I've not dialed an internal number, I've not dialed an outbound number, I've just gone off hook. And you can see now we've had a little pop up there making me aware that this particular extension is off hook. Okay, now this is part of the management by exception rules we've actually deployed. Let me put the phone down, and in the top right hand corner now you can see that I've obviously received an email notifying me that Marc is off hook. Maybe I've taken my phone off hook just because I want a quiet morning. Yeah, management by exception rules, there can be various things. We're not answering the phone within a certain period of time. Our telesales are supposed to be making 10 calls an hour, each individual, and they're not. They're only doing 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. But at least I know within the first working hour that that individual has not met his target. There may be genuine reasons, which I can appreciate. However, the individual themselves know that I'm actually measuring and monitoring their activity. Okay, management by exception, whether it's people not doing what they should do, whether people are off the phone, whether we're not answering the calls long enough, if we're dialing a number internationally and we've been on it for a long time and it's breaking sort of the company sort of policies, yet again we can generate these type of alarms. And because it's sending an email, I could be out the business receiving an email notifying me that we're not answering the phones quick enough. So therefore we may be having to change the way that we're working to deal with this inburst of incoming calls. Okay, now if I do dial an extension off my ST500, let me dial 201. Okay, and we answer here. You can see yeah, it's ringing on David. This is David up here, so we're going to answer this one. Okay, so you can actually obviously work out that David is actually talking to Marc's ST500, but I have the ability to open up these tiles and I get more information. Of course, if I was on an outbound call, it will be yellow. If it was on an incoming call, it could be green. So the colors will determine the type of call that I'm actually taking. But I have the opportunity to open up the tile there, and you can actually see that David's talking to Marc's ST500 and has been for 28, 29, 30 seconds, and it's an internal call. Now, that may be all well and good, but you may not want to keep opening up these boxes. You may want to look at your extension status of who's been doing something for the longest amount of time. So in order to do that, I can right click and change the look of that tile, if you like, to show detail. Okay, and I just click on here, and now you're seeing everything that's happening for the longest amount of time. Of course, I've only got myself and David here, but if other extensions started to talk internally, they would appear in the two boxes below. And as David and Marc's ST500 clear down, if we just hang up, the other people would move up the list. So you have different views on how you can actually monitor that type of activity of your extensions, whether it be on an inbound and outbound call, when the call comes in. In fact, if I just leave this box open here, bring a call into the pod, you'll see some status there. So we know at this point in time the call's in the queue and it's ringing at extension 200. We do introduce a message shortly if you can hear it, but what you're seeing now are other extensions that are ringing. Even my ST500 is ringing, so let me answer that. So what you'll see now that Marc, let me just mute the microphone on the handset. You can see that Marc's actually taken that call, and it's Mrs. Shiv, and I've been on the call for 12-13 seconds. I'll hang up now and you'll see that the call will disappear. Okay, so before we're actually getting into the element just below all these tiles, these are all the call history and things like that. Let me show you another template. In order for me to show you this, all right, I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. Template is the auto attendant template, so we can actually measure and monitor even in an auto attendant. An auto attendant can answer the calls at the front end or can act as an overflow to the business. And yet again, using your 8 levels of day and night service, you can really make the system really nimble to fit your business. So I'm going to bring a call in. I'm going to go into the service queue and I'm going to abandon it. So we can see hopefully the abandon rate here, 0, go to 1. So we're bringing a call in on the auto attendant.
Thank you for calling NEC. Press 1 for sales, 2 for service.
2 for service. So you can actually see now I'm in the queue and I'm not going to answer this. I'm going to abandon the call. So the information has been sent and there you go. We've got 1 abandoned call. Service average abandon time was after 7 seconds, and you can see here the unreturned calls 1. So we're actually showing you exactly the same sort of method that we had on the first template on the abandoned and the unreturned call. I'll do the same again just to show you it does work in the same way. This time we're going to answer the call.
Thank you for calling NEC. Press 1 for sales, 2 for service.
2 for service. I'm going to answer the call here because it's delivered to extension 201. I'm going to answer the call and we're connected. I'm going to hang up, and what's going to happen now is that the abandon rate is going to continue to be 0 and the unreturned call will go to, the abandon rate will go to 1 and the unreturned call will go to 0. There we go. So yet again, if you've got an auto attendant, we can measure and monitor who goes into what department and the call handling there. Many years ago, you used to have different DDIs to measure that type of activity. Okay, so let me go back to the main template where we first started. Okay, and look at the area just below. Let the screen refresh. So within the MyCalls Manager, I can instantly see how many calls have come into our business. I can have a look at today, yesterday, this week, last 7 days. I'll do a custom date. So if I want to see all the calls that have come in since January the 2nd, right up to today, which is the 31st of March, I could do that, not a problem at all. I also have the ability, if a customer phoned in and said, I spoke to somebody yesterday, it was really helpful, is there any chance I could be put back through to him? And if you've got quite a few people in your business, that's quite difficult. But if I put the customer's number within that, and it would go off and do a search to find that call, and like I said, yes, you actually spoke to Nick, let me transfer you. Okay, so Yet again, I can see all the calls, the number that's the phoned in on, whether it be an incoming call or a banking call or an outgoing call, the duration, etc, etc. So we'll be coming back to this in one of the next webinars when we're going to look at call recording, because you probably noticed that we've got some icons here which would represent that the calls have actually been recorded. Now going back to some of the other things that I pointed out earlier, about GDPR, okay, the right to be forgotten. So if we bring up some information here and the customer says, I want you to get rid of all my call data, I'll enter in the telephone number into here. So let me put in a telephone number, 967186592. Okay, and click on search. It will go off and find that this individual has called in 710 times. Somebody's phoned them by dialing out by using the 923 times. So just to get rid of that call record, if you like, I'll click delete, which I'm not going to do. It's going to give you a warning saying, are you sure? And if you are sure, press yes, and it will get rid of all that call data that is associated with that telephone number. Okay, we'll just close that down. So that's a brief overview of MyCalls Manager. It's real time and it will empower you to measure and monitor your business a hell of a lot more. So I hope you understood the MyCalls Manager and how it can actually work for any type of business. Here's a few takeaways just to recap on a few things that you may have not paid attention to or were discussing amongst yourself. Guys, it's real-time information. Would we drive our car without a speedometer, a fuel gauge, a thermostat? Why would you have a telephone system that you invested a lot of money in and not have any form of measurement? Okay, real-time information empowers you to make sure your telephone system is doing and your staff are doing everything at that moment in time that it should be doing. As we've already seen, some of the tiles can flash when we meet these thresholds. So yet again, capturing somebody's eye and hopefully create somebody to take notice and answer the calls. Visibility of extensions, I think we spoke intensively about that, but equally we can even do the same with the line side. So how do we know when our customers are getting engaged soon? It's probably when they're phoning in and saying, Mark, I've been trying to get through for 10 minutes and you're always engaged. So yet again, with the management by exception and the visibility of that, we can actually do something about it. It may well be we have too many lines for the amount of calls that we generally take. So we could reduce them and save some money along the way. The hundreds of reports that we have can be scheduled via email and printer. The ability, when you're pulling off a report, and I'm seeing all this call data, if the call's been recorded and I'm monitoring the report on my laptop, of course, or my PC, and there's an icon next to that call record, I can click on it and listen to that call recording through my speakers, my PC or my laptop. I don't have to go away and try and dig deep in the huge amount of calls to listen to that particular recording. So it makes life a lot easier. And my passion, manager by exception. We're busy people. We have to do other things within our business. We can't just watch software all day. So putting these rules within the software, if they're broken, you're going to be notified, whether via email or by the alarm, whether you're in the office or out the office or even on a beach somewhere nice. So thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. I hope it's been useful. If you do have any further questions or suggestions, please consult your NEC channel manager. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.